Hello everyone, my name is Tatiana from 21 Kittens Art Studio. In today's video I wanted to talk to you about a new watercolor paper that I discovered recently. It is from the brand Magnani 1404, so this is an Italian brand and it's supposed to be a high quality watercolor paper, so it's 100% cotton and it comes in the cold press, in the hot press and in the rough. Now, this is a sample pack that the lady at the store gave me when I purchased the larger pad of watercolor. So let me show you. It is this one. Oops, the sheet coming off. So this is the Portofino, which is the hot press paper. And this one is 300 GSM, so 140 pounds, 26 by 36 centimeters, so 10 inches by 14 inches, and it has 20 sheets. It is, like I said, 100% cotton, and it's acid-free. It is natural white, so it's slightly brighter than the Arches, for instance. I got this, I think, oh my god, I can't remember. I think about a month ago, maybe, by now. I have still been testing it. I've been trying it a lot. And I gotta tell you, I am not a big fan, sadly. It's a shame because this, like the large block cost 35 euros here in Spain. And the reason I got it is because I wanted to get more of the Saunders Waterford paper that I ran out of. I really like that paper, but the store didn't have it anymore, which was also a bit weird because when I asked them about it, they said they didn't carry it because they're English. Doesn't make any sense because they also sell Winsor & Newton, but you know. I then also asked her about Canson, if she had the Canson, the one that I like. So hold on, this one. So it's still in its packaging and it's the Canson Aquarelle, and this is the cold press. And this one isn't 100% cotton. This is 60% cotton, but it's very good quality, or at least I find for the style of paintings that I do, it works really, really well. I absolutely love this paper. I just wish it came in a hot press version as well. It only comes in the fine grain and in the rough. So she told me that this paper was now being discontinued by Canson, and I'm not sure how true that is. So I asked her why, you know, and she said, well, because Canson bought Arches, they're now pushing for Arches to be sold like high-end professional paper. Oh, hold on, I lost my thread. Okay, so they are pushing for Arches as a high-end paper, and then the Canson blocks that they had at the store, they were the lower quality. So they had like the Canson XL, they had the Montval, which aren't really that good, especially XL. It's like horrible paper for watercolors. Like I honestly wouldn't use it. It's fine for gouache, but not for watercolor. This is the newer version of the cover of this paper. So this one is the same as this one. It's just that this is a newer cover. But yeah, so she told me that that the Canson was being discontinued, so they didn't have it anymore, and then that she didn't like selling the Saunders Waterford, which I found odd. And she offered me the Fabriano, which I don't like. I'm not a fan of Fabriano for that. Maybe for sketching, but not for watercolor. I don't know why. So when she told me about the Magnani and she said that she really enjoyed it, like she really loves the Italia one, I said, okay, I will try some. And she didn't have smaller sizes at that moment, and she also didn't have the Italia left, but she did have the Portofino, so the hot press, which is one of my favorite papers to use now. I've been using the hot press in the Arches, and then in the Lana, which I cannot find here, like that is the paper that came in my Cobalt sketchbook. So Lana and its hot press is just, I absolutely love hot press at the moment. It's so nice. Um, but yeah, so one of the first things I did when I got home was I used the block. So I used the large one. And since this block is like glued on all sides, like on all four sides, it should be fine to work on it directly. You shouldn't have to remove the sheet and attach it to another surface. You know, it should work fine. It didn't. As soon as I started wetting the paper, because I like working with really wet techniques, like wet on wet, and my idea was to create that. I wanted to do like a gray skies, like a landscape or something like that, all wet, you know. And I noticed that when I was applying the water, the paper started buckling quite a lot. I'm actually going to insert some footage here. And yeah, because it buckled so much, I couldn't paint with it properly. Like, for those of you who don't really work with watercolors, so when you have your surface, okay, you wet it completely. It should lay flat or fairly flat, and then when you start adding the pigment, you want it to be you want to apply it in smooth single strokes. So rather than going, like, for instance, like with a small brush and doing very small strokes, you have like a large brush and just go in one fell swoop, apply the paint. You would apply the paint like that. But because it had all the ridges here, you know, like from the buckling, I couldn't do that. Okay, again, one of the things that I don't like about this paper is the fact that it buckles so quickly. Like, the paper isn't even like super mega soaking wet like my arches, and it's already buckling, and that is going to affect the painting. Okay, so there is one thing that I want you to hear. Let me just bring you closer. So this is the painting, and you will hear it now. You hear the clicking sound, right? That is caused by me doing this. And it's the buckling, and it is very annoying. I don't know how this painting is going to turn out, but I'll try my best. You know, it was like bumps. It's like when you're driving a car and there are like speed bumps and you go boom, ba-doom, 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 like that. It was the same thing. Really frustrating. I was hating it. And what I did was I painted this one here. I'm gonna just pull it off. Right, so I painted this one, and I used a mix of Roman Schmal and Horadam Schminke watercolor paints. For this, I might have used some Winsor & Newton as well in there. The paint also would come off really easily. Like, when it was dry and I applied water again to apply more paint, the paint underneath would come off. It was very frustrating to paint this, and it took me a very long time to do this. Like, normally this wouldn't take me that long, but it was double the time with this because of how the paper would work. Now, as an end result, it actually looks good. Like, I can see the colors, and they are very vibrant. And I can even feel that there is a lot of pigment on the paper itself, you know. But just a frustration, you know, it wasn't an enjoyable experience. So I thought, there's gotta be something that I'm doing wrong. So what I started doing was just removing the pages and splitting them in half, cutting them in half, and that way it worked better. So again, I have another example here. Like, for instance, this one, it's half of the paper, and again, this was applied wet on wet and just in one go, and it worked better than in the larger format. So yeah, I am quite sad actually, because I thought that I had found another brand that I would enjoy using for watercolor paper, and that is not the case. I have been looking online for the prices of these papers, and what I found was that on their site, the one where I bought this paper, It is listed for 35.50, and the arches for the same size and the same amount of sheets is 42 euros, so the arches is slightly more expensive. However, on another online site, I have found the Saunders Waterford. The 26 by 36 size only comes in 12 sheets, and these are loose sheets, and it sells for 36.95. Whilst the slightly smaller size, 23 by 31 for 20 sheets, glued on all four sides, is going for 31.85. So the Saunders Waterford, which is the paper that I like better, is slightly cheaper than the Magnani. So if I had to spend my money, I would go with Arches or with Saunders Waterford, personally. Now, I tried looking for videos that were talking about this particular paper, in specifically the Portofino, so the hot press, and I couldn't find that many. Like I saw videos about the Italia, the cold press, but the round blocks, because they also do like round blocks of paper, so that they are about this size, and they're all glued all over. So you can do like small paintings, like more decorative paintings like that. And I saw a couple of videos of that, and the people who used them were quite happy with that. So maybe, I'm thinking maybe the Italia, I'm going to call Italia the cold press, because that's what they call it, and Portofino for the hot press, because that's easier for me to remember. So the people using the Italia in the round format said they really liked it. And there was also one video where they were using a Toscana in the round, so the rough grain, and they also liked it. But I haven't seen any videos. I don't think I have. Man, I've watched so many videos, everything's just becoming a blur now. About talking about the Portofino specifically, sort of reviewing the paper or talking about the characteristics of said paper. I haven't found that. So I think this is what I'm trying to do with this video. Now, I did find a couple of videos of people using the Italia, and just like in a block size, like not a rounded format, and they were having issues with it actually. So one of them started getting like splotches on the paper, like weird splotches on the paper, and the other person as well, they had like little dots appear, and it was just strange. So it looked like the sizing of the paper had gone wrong in both cases. And speaking of the sizing, I watched a video by Magnani collaborating with some of the brand. I think they were collaborating with Blick, so I think it was under the Blick channel. And the representative from Magnani was explaining that their paper has exterior sizing and it has interior sizing as well. Now, I am thinking maybe that is what causes so much buckling to the paper, like the warping. So I'm not quite sure. So I'm now just thinking off the top of my head if the sizing has anything to do with how much it buckles. Then I also saw another video of a guy, God, I can't remember, but I watched the video of somebody explaining that what you have to do with a Magnani paper is that you have to fully soak it so that you can actually stretch it. So he would take the sheet of paper, put it under the tap, get it wet all over, like on both sides, and then just paste it against a flat surface, and then paint on top. I have tried this method with also using it just half size, and I found that it actually works much better that way. The problem with that is that it's not a technique that I can use every time. I did that with these two. Now you understand why I had all of this in the shot, right? Okay, so this one. Okay, so yeah, this is the Magnani. The colors that I used are the Codman watercolors. And like I said, I wet this paper under the tap on both sides, let it be like properly soaked. I put it against a flat surface, so the water acted as a glue and just kept it in place all flat, and I was able to apply the pigments before, of course, doing the details once the paper was fully dry. Now, to compare it, I did the same in the hot press from Arches. So as you can see, this is half an A3 size. This is half of the Magnani, so the Arches is much bigger. And I did the same thing. I wet this under the tap, both sides, all soaked up, put it against a hard surface, a flat surface, sorry, and then applied the pigment on top. And I did notice that the pigment would move much better on the Arches than on the Magnani. Despite both of them being wet, the pigment would sort of sit more on the Magnani and not flow as much. Like when the paper is wet and you apply wet paint, the pigment starts spreading. If the paper is soaking it too quickly, the pigment isn't going to flow that far. And that is exactly what was happening on this one. It wasn't flowing that far as it was on this one. Now I tried to paint the same motif, and it's not my best work, but it was more so that you could see how they look. Even though they look the same, there are differences, and especially the differences are whilst you're painting with them. Okay, so why I can't use this technique for all of my paintings going forward with the Magnani, like getting the paper fully wet under the sink and then just plopping it on top of a flat surface, is because I need to work in many layers. So it would be fine for the first few layers to just apply the pigment and get it moving and just doing its thing, but then I need to dry it and then restart the process. I'm thinking if I do that by doing the soaking method, so to speak, there would come a point where I need the paper to be fully dry, and if I use my hair dryer on it, since the paper is not glued onto the surface, it's just going to buckle, it's just going to start curling, and then I won't be able to have it as a flat surface. So it would take longer to do everything. I'm guessing I could, dry it, have it curl on me, wet it again, put it on a flat surface, hope that it's really flat, and then paint again, maybe. But it's not ideal, because I'm sure that if I do that, a lot of the first pigment would wash off maybe, and then I doubt it would be like fully flat like when you do it the first time. So that is why that technique doesn't really work with me. I still have a few methods to try for this. I don't know how they will come out, but this is as far as I've gotten. Okay, I have another one here. Yeah, now I have to show it to you like this, because I painted on the other side as well. This was another test that I did. So this is a quarter of the sheet of the Magnani. And as you can see, the colors are quite vibrant. They came out really, really vibrant, but I couldn't remove that much of the pigment on here. Like I wanted to lift it off much more, and I couldn't. And also here, I needed to work this. So what I was saying, that I can't really use that method of getting it wet and then drying it out and then getting it wet again. So I can't use that method. And if I do paint the way that I paint, like getting the paper wet and then applying my first layers and then letting them dry, and then once it's dry, and then using layers to do the effects again with more water and everything, I couldn't do it. And even here, like once this was dry, I couldn't really work it much better. And now the paint came out like splotchy and kind of stained, and just all these marks. It doesn't look good. it still could be user error. But for the price that I paid, I mean, Arches doesn't do that. That doesn't happen with me and Arches. That doesn't happen with me and the Lana paper. Yeah, this is my sketchbook by Koval, so the Sketchilla, and I did ask for the Lana hot press, and that didn't happen on this paper. So, and this one isn't even like, this is a sketchbook, so the sides are not glued, and I just hold it together with some clips, and I am able to create soft washes that look smooth and don't have any issues with it. This is one of my favorite items that I own. It's so good. Mind you, that is from a small seller. It's him who makes, I can't remember his name now, but he's in Poland, and he makes every sketchbook by hand himself. So he cuts the paper, he cuts the covers, he binds all the signatures, he puts everything together, he does the shipping and everything. And I think that sketchbook cost me, I think it was 80 euros, I want to say, with very high-end paper. I'd much rather buy another one of those than another one of these. Like, I'm sorry, Portofino, I don't get you. Instead of being 35, if this had been, let's say, 25, I'd be like, yeah, okay, makes sense, you know? But 35 for a paper that doesn't lay flat, that doesn't work like Arches or Lana, no, it's not. At least to me, it's not worth it. So, I mean, I would definitely recommend it if you do more illustration type paintings. So if you do a lot of flowers, maybe even portraits, where you're not using that much wet on wet technique, maybe then it works much better. I still have to try a few things with this, like illustration style, and I'm guessing it's going to work fine there. I am painting this afternoon on this sheet of Magnani paper, and it has taken a lot of layers to do this. So I just want to say that for layering, like if you use a lot of layers in your paintings, then it's a great paper to have, because it is holding up all the layers perfectly. The color looks very crisp. And also the fact that it is hot press, you know, it's much smoother and it's much easier to work. And I'm not even using like my professional grade paints, I'm using my Cotmans. And I'm just using this number 6 Escoda brush. It's a fairly old brush, but so far, like I said, for this, it is nice paper. And the size is 1/4 of the sheet, of the large sheet. Do I regret buying the paper? Yes, I do. Should have just gone with Arches, but I wanted to try something new. You live and learn, right? Anyways, I think that's all that I have for you today. I hope this was helpful for you. If you have tried this paper before, the Magnani, please let me know in the comments below. I would really love to hear your experience with it. And also, if you use the Fabriano Aquarello, what you think of it. I know that a lot of people like it. I only tried the 200 GSM in the smaller format, and I didn't really like it too much. I was like, I guess, okay, I'd rather go with Arches, you know? After having watched this review, if you would watch it, like, I'm not trying to shit on the brand, but there are certain things that one just needs to be honest about. And this is an honest review. Like I said, maybe your style of painting is different and it's going to work perfectly for you and you're going to love it, which is fine. In my case, the way that I paint, and if there are other people who paint like me, like lots of wet washes and lots of water on the paper, and you need the paper to lie completely flat, then it's not gonna work. I would recommend some other brand, Arches. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I hope this was useful for you. and I will catch you soon. Bye.